to say it. Somebody should. Let's talk about tool time. Let's talk about bum wine, yeah. You're asking the questions that nobody could. Like where are the bone thugs and are they in harmony? Do help for Snowman.
No, I didn't. But I did now.
Now we are recording.
We're recording.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome.
Hello.
So, yeah. So we have an episode happen. It's always awkward to start recording because we're just like chatting.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, I just start recording. But it's always like, then I feel like we chat more most times, or we don't, or like, you know?
I think there's a thing with podcasts I listen to that I feel like some are in the professional radio mold,
Yeah.
and then others are in the extreme chatty mold.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone is more authentic than the other, but there's ones where they're very clearly like the trying to sync up across a recording where it's like the, okay, 1, 2, 3, mark,
Yeah.
clap. And they leave all of that in the episode
Yes.
to be like all the stuff that like when it falls down or doesn't work or like
Yeah.
trying to sync it up.
That's staying in. Yeah.
It's like that's staying in. And there's sort of a thing about like the I'm afraid of missing content or I'm afraid of missing something.
Yeah.
Or like they just don't really want to edit it out.
I used to be, or in some ways I am that person who's like, I want to like see the whole thing or hear the whole thing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then like over the years of especially doing this, but also like writing projects, I especially feel this way where I'm like, you know, if the podcast host is like, we recorded this, but it didn't turn out good and you trust me, you don't want to hear it. I tend to believe them these days. I tend to be like, that's probably true.
There's a thing, yeah, where it's like if someone says this was not a good episode, this did not turn out well.
Yeah.
Like totally fine. I also find myself like skipping a lot of that, like, you know, more and more where it's like they're getting stuff set up and I'm like,
Yeah.
skip.
Yeah.
Where among the better uses perhaps for AI, not good, but better versus worse, is sometimes those auto-generated chapters, which are not always perfect, but sometimes it's like introductions and preliminary stuff.
I think that's a fine. There are many uses of AI that I think are good. How would I put it? Excellent to acceptable.
Right.
And that's definitely firmly in there where it's like, I mean, if it's like an AI generated like summary of the episode or like an AI generated, chapters, that's fine. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, well, that's just a thing that I suppose the creator could do if they wanted to, but it just saves some time and like whatever. For my stuff too, it's like such a who cares thing because I'm like, I mean, this isn't like a carefully conceived narrative that has like an A to B to C. So it doesn't really matter. Like if someone wanted anyway.
Right.
It's things like that I'm like, yeah. That's fine.
Mm-hmm. But we're here for an episode.
Yeah.
And this is high probability of being a bonus episode. Simply given the material involved.
Yeah, I don't actually know what's happening other than a brief clue that I got downstairs that has something to do with a masturbatorium.
So this is an episode that is a special request of friend of the show, Jen.
Okay.
Because a thing that is probably a good way to connect it to the show is Harper's, of all things.
Harper's Bazaar?
Not Bazaar, because Harper's Bazaar is the fashion magazine.
Oh, okay.
Regular ass Harper's. Harper's magazine.
I guess I didn't know there was a difference.
There is. Like Harper's Bazaar tends towards fashion stuff, and Harper's magazine is, I feel like Harper's magazine is the magazine for what you would imagine your upper middle-aged, your 50-something small liberal arts college professor would really like to read.
Okay.
That's just kind of, if I had the vibe of who I think the typical Harper's reader is.
A little New Yorker-y, perhaps.
It's like New Yorker-y, but also like deep. I think one of the big distinctions is that it is profoundly offline.
Oh, okay.
In a way that I think a lot of other magazines like have like an online portion up until I think maybe about 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Harper's website could have basically, they had the same website from about like 1999 to like 2000, like very like the America Online ass website.
Yes.
To about like 2022, they're like, this is the one website. We're not going to change anything.
And it's just like subscriptions are $16.99.
It's like, here's subscriptions. They had like a big thing. It's like, we have a blog now.
Whoa.
And
okay.
the blog was like something, nobody reads it.
So I feel like my opinion on that would be like, you know, in the early days, they had a thing that was probably about equivalent to what everyone. Then at some point, it became extremely antiquated. But then probably in the last 5+ years, it's become maybe something that it's like they could just lean into as intentional, as like, yeah, that's what we're trying to do, is not be online.
I think a thing was they had this, you know, like a lot of magazines had a business model that was about like selling subscriptions and print individual issues.
Yeah.
And they couldn't really figure out like how to make money on the internet. And I think a lot of magazines still haven't figured out how to make money on the internet.
That's true. Yeah.
And Harper's was like, what if we just didn't try? Like instead of being like, how do we make money off of this? It's like, well, we don't.
We just say fuck the internet and make money the same way we always have.
I mean, it's the kind of thing where I used to go on the website occasionally to try and renew my subscription. And it was awful. It was the kind of thing where they were like, well, we'll give you your information, but you still need to send us a personal check.
Oh, yeah. That's the kind of thing that I'm like, you know, couldn't they could hire some tech bro for like a day and just be like, all we need is a simple subscription shopping cart thing, but that's it. You know what I mean? We don't want any other shit. We do not want, once you buy the thing, for them to have a thing that pops up and is like, share on Facebook that you subscribe to Harper's.
That is a thing where like, I was pretty sure, like when I saw that they have like Blue Sky or Twitter accounts or whatever, I was like, what?
For what? Yeah.
For what? To do what? I think like it made sense for them to have it to be like, well, no one can pretend to be us, I guess.
We have several, the library I work for, we have several social media accounts that exist for that. You know, we have a Truth Social. And we've never used it for anything other than like, well, that way if someone's pretending to be us, or if like some other thing is happening, then we have remediation options that are not available if you don't have it.
I imagine there's also a thing where like a lot of people who still use X, the everything site, kind of treat Blue Sky and then vice versa a little bit of like, here's where I actually do my posting.
Yeah.
And then like they just sort of copy paste over to the other one.
100%.
Like, and that's part of where like a Truth Social might be useful for a library. Like you're not going to generate or write anything for it, but like, oh, we posted to Facebook and it was just like copy paste, put it on Truth Social.
I mean, we could, yeah, it's always an option, right? Because it's like, well, if I made the content, not that much work to just put it on something else. But Truth Social is not.
It's not where you want to engage, and you're probably
not
losing a lot here.
Yeah, and I mean, Truth Social is one that, like, in my opinion, it's like for something like a library, is because all that's going to happen, super progressive people are going to be mad that you're over there.
Sure.
And super conservative people are going to be mad because normal library things. So, like, it's just going to be an outlet for anger.
There's a thing like the sort of one thing I found online that was one of those silly conversations was like every Denny's is either a gay Denny's or a fighting Denny's. You know, and you have to kind of pick which one this is. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but like generally you have a gay Denny's and a fighting Denny's.
Yeah.
And I think there's some social networks where there's like I think what I broadly describe as entertainment, but you could have like some level of entertainment or information or like something like that. And from maybe an institutional perspective, like this network is good for getting information out.
Yeah.
And this other network is good for engaging with the public.
Yeah.
And the thing with Truth Social, I think, is a network that feels like a fighting Denny's.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, is that the main reason is not just for what you described, like the super progressive people are going to be mad that you're on the network in the first place.
Right.
And most of the people who are on Truth Social are not really there because they want to learn stuff.
Right.
Like part of what I've heard is that like Truth Social kind of struggles as a social network because it's a lot of right-wing folks.
Right.
And part of what they liked in old Twitter to some degree or Reddit or other sites is they wanted to be able to fight with people who were to their left.
Right.
Like that's kind of like they wanted the fighting.
Right.
And when there's no one else to like, those lefty people aren't there to fight with. They're like, I'm not going to Fighting Denny's.
Right.
Like, who do you fight with?
Yeah, I can't really imagine what would be happening over there unless they're trying to like out conservative each other.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't seem like a conservative thing to me all that much. Like it's probably more likely that if you're on Truth Social,
right,
you're probably within a pretty narrow band politically.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so like, but there's just not going to be much engagement over there because like everyone feels the same way about it.
I mean, I think there is a bit of out conservating each other, not in the wider, maybe not, well, there is no wider conservative movement like there isn't any political movement.
Sure.
I noticed that a lot more, or I encounter it a lot through Reddit, where like the conservative subreddit does that all the time.
Yeah.
But it has such a sort of pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
And mostly I encounter conservative because I am and confessing my own social media sins, which is going to become part of this larger podcast.
Okay.
Is like, I am a subscriber to subreddit drama.
Uh-huh.
And conservative, like subreddit has a pattern that emerges.
Uh-huh.
It's mostly like Trump does thing, right?
Yeah.
A lot of conservative people who are on the conservative subreddit don't like thing.
Mm-hmm.
They voice, we don't like thing. Another group of people come in and claim that like, and then there becomes like a big to do.
Right.
Right. Where some people are like, you need to support Trump at all times. Other people are like, well, that's not real conservatism. And then they all just kind of resolve that basically all of these comments are actually like secret liberals that snuck in.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then they kind of just move on to be like, any problems that happen are because of secret liberals.
Ah.
And it's part of where they have a lot of like their community is a flared users only type of post.
Okay.
Where it's like you have to be part or in the conservative subreddit a lot to get a flare.
Yeah.
And you get the flare and then you get to participate. When the flared users are saying we don't like it, it's like, oh, they've been doing a long con to try and manipulate us.
Sure. Yep.
And it's that weird like sort of theories of Reddit where it's like people believe this to be a super big deal and it's like,
yeah,
no, you're like a bunch of weirdos. Like as much as I spend, an inordinate amount of time on Reddit, I realize like how much of it is written by teenagers taking a shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I think the management of Reddit is fascinating to me. Like, some subreddits I think are very well managed, right? Like I think like the super hyper local ones seem to be pretty well, like the way that admins work and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then like I posted, in the books subreddit just the other day because I was, I'm looking for a reading light, like a book light, right? But I want a headlamp because that has been the best option because I haven't discovered, like I uncovered a big secret, but like all the clip-on ones and stuff don't really work for me. And like I had one that's kind of like a 3/4 of a necklace kind of thing, but like you move around and then it's not facing the right way. It's a pain in the ass. A headlamp is always looking where you're looking. But the problem I have is that headlamps are all designed to be ultra bright because this is probably the only use case I can come up with for a headlamp that's not as bright as possible.
It's a thing where like a lot of headlamps, because I also like I've occasionally used a headlamp for reading because when I do a study abroad,
oh yeah,
I would just bring a flashlight headlamp sort of thing because I'm like, if you're around in the nighttime, it's like a good thing to have.
Sure, why not?
Why not have it? And I found it like useful and also just useful enough for me navigating around this somewhat unfamiliar room.
I was gonna say,
like
the middle of the night, you have to pee.
You have to pee.
Yeah.
It's not so bad for me because like I always recommend the students bring one because like if they have to get up and go pee, they can like navigate the room without waking up all of their roommates.
Right.
I don't have any roommates,
Right.
but it's still like kind of useful where I'm not like,
Yeah.
I got to go to find the light and then go to pee and then go back and find the light and then go back and find my bed.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like every headlamp is designed with like hikers or like work crews in mind.
Yeah. Or like urban cyclists.
Yeah. Like people who like brightness is the most important. Like you're sort of trying to navigate in the dark or you want people to see you.
Yeah. And to have a large cone of light is preferential.
Yeah, it's like
that's ideal.
Yes, it's like when you're trying to navigate in space or be seen.
Yeah.
But for like a reading lamp, that's not really terribly useful.
It's the opposite. Where I'm like, well, I want something that I can wear while Poon Master Flex is sleeping. Mm-hmm. So I had a headlamp, but the problem is it's like burning out fucking 30 or something. But I had put a sticker over the actual light to like dim it significantly, and then also created a sort of barrel out of index cards. So it's like sticking off my head like a unicorn horn, but that focuses the light more, so it's not lighting up the entire room.
Right.
And that worked, but the problem is like the light's burning out and stuff. So I was like, all right, well, I need to get a new thing. But basically I was like asking people for what's a headlamp, but one that sucks, so, but not in ways of like, it eats a battery in 2 hours, whatever, but sucks in a way of like, not very bright. You know what I mean? And so like, anyway, I put the request on the book subreddit because I was like, I was like, here's what I think I want. But if you guys have other options that are really good, you let me know. And I just laid everything out. And so the book subreddit admin was like, this question needs to go in our weekly specific question thread for questions that really only apply to one person, which I was like, you guys are sequestering off questions that only apply to one person in a subreddit. Like, isn't that the whole point of a subreddit? That it's not just all of Reddit mingled together. But so then they were like, so they took the post down. I posted in the questions thread and nobody has seen it.
Right.
And I was like, so you guys just invented this like singular questions thread for some reason, but like no one's using it. Worthless.
It's a problem that I think is like, there's a Reddit version of it, but it's also just the larger problem. Like Jaron Lanier, who talks a lot about like internet culture stuff, like basically the inventor of virtual reality, had kind of talked about like internet communities tend to work best when they're very niche and specific. And like specificity tends to help internet communities a lot, like to moderate them. You tend not to get as many weird trolley posts or other types of stuff.
Because everyone there they don't have to feel the same way about everything, but there's at least sort of a baseline knowledge and so on.
It's kind of like a sports like every general sports subreddit is kind of garbage.
Right.
And then like if you get something more specific, it tends to get a little bit better.
Right.
Like the take that I have is when people are thinking about like, oh, I'm looking for a good climbing subreddit. I'm like, don't go to the main climbing subreddit. That's totally worthless.
Right.
Right. Or like just do a web search and then like click on the Reddit post to answer your question, because like the climbing subreddit also, because they get spammed with like really common, easily searchable questions.
Yeah.
People don't know how search bar works.
Right.
They say like, okay, here's a frequent question. Like, what type of shoes should I buy? There's we got to make a thread for that.
Yeah.
Like we got that. But I say like, well, the climber girl subreddit is usually the best for beginner advice. Cause like they actually sort of do support beginners.
Right.
A little bit. Cause there's like another subreddit called like Climb Harder, which is supposed to be for people who are like, I'm trying to maximize my things, and they're getting into weird, like, here are my metrics.
Oh yeah.
And
sure.
I'm like, well, whatever.
Like, okay.
It's the kind of thing where when I'm feeling mean, like they have that subreddit has good like injury recovery advice, and it's okay for training plans.
Sure.
But there's a bunch of people where my personal take is like, I think a lot of you would be happier if you were just weightlifters.
Oh yeah.
Because I think, and this is where it's good for you because you do weightlifting, is that I tend to think about like, if your main thing that makes you like satisfied in a sport or an activity is number go up.
Yeah.
Weightlifting is a really good sport.
Yeah, I think so. I think the big advantage is there are so few factors,
Right.
right? It's like how many pounds did you lift? How many times? And that's pretty much it. And then other than that, it's like, well, I guess you could fuck around with your diet and your sleep and, whatever. But that's basically it.
It's the like, if you want to say I bench pressed 180 pounds, 2 times 2 years ago, and now
Right.
I've bench pressed like 200 pounds,
Right.
and be like, see, number go up. I feel good.
Right.
There's not like a secret factor of like, oh, well, if you kind of like moved your shoulder slightly,
Yeah.
like that would totally make all the difference. You need to do some like specific shoulder shrug training to make that happen.
Right.
Like it would be like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's easiest. Weightlifting's probably the best sport that could be coached like by watching video of someone do it.
Mm-hmm.
Not like ideal way to get coached, but like that would probably be it of the sport. It's probably the one that has the
In that, I think with weightlifting, there's a particular type of balancing that's necessary, but like it's not I wouldn't describe it as a balance sport in the way that like gymnastics is a balance sport.
No.
Where it's like you see like, oh, I could totally do that. Or you can watch someone like on the pommel horse or the uneven bars or something like that and be like, oh, that looks really easy. And then you get on that and they're like, wait, I have to like balance on this?
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's hard.
Yeah, I think that weightlifting sport is sort of the thing about it is not complicated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not that if something goes wrong, it's pretty about someone. I'm stuck on this lift at this weight or well, okay. How much was it? How much were you lifting your previous session? How much sleep did you get? What's your diet like? And basically,
it's
that's
sort of
it.
It's sort of like saying I can lift, X amount on a good day and then X minus 40 pounds on a bad day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So yeah, like weightlifting is probably better for people who are like super concerned with the micro details because you can actually evaluate the micro details a little bit more.
Right.
And like the difference between, a weightlifting platform in Fresno, California, and they're pretty much the same. It's the most equivalent sport.
It's a thing where like in that climb harder thing, people, if they're climbing outside, it's starting to be like, well, okay, you're really good on, you can get like, you're really good on limestone, but then but then granite is a really different thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not crazy different, but it's like, oh, you're really used to one type of rock, and then another type of rock is going to be slightly different.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's just not much of that. Like, well, I mean, if what's on the end of your barbell is a rubber coated plate or a iron plate, it doesn't really matter. Like it's the same, it weighs the same.
Do you think it would be incredibly different if you were trying to lift like, let's say you were trying to lift 240 pounds.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to imagine for the sake of this argument that the bar weighs 0 because I don't want to do math.
Sure.
Do you think it would make a tremendous difference if you were lifting, say, just the 240 pounds of plates, or if it was like you had 2 120-pound people hanging off the other barbell?
If the 2 120-pound people were able to curl themselves around the bar and be absolutely still, then it would be fine. Yeah. If they weighed the exact amount, plus or minus or two, yeah, it would be the same.
Like I'm thinking about in the old strongman events where they used to have an event called the girl lift.
Yeah.
Which I'm guessing you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And sort of like if someone's like, I'm training for the girl lift.
Yeah.
It'd be like, well, you probably want to train to lift the weight, but also you want to maybe like occasionally slide in like maybe like have something that hangs down, like attach a kettlebell or something like that, so you get used to something that's not steady.
Yeah, that's the thing is if it was live weight, if it was like truly just someone who's not experienced or whatever, it is different. Or like, if some dummy just goes to the gym, has two girls who say they weigh 100 pounds, hang on to the barbell, it is going to be different.
Right.
And their weight's going to shift a lot more as the bar gets lifted and stuff like that. But, maybe a closer analogy would be like if I had iron plate, one side that was 45 pounds, had a concrete one that I made myself that was also 45 pounds size. But if I was like bench pressing,
you'd be like, this is probably the same as long as basically both of these plates are an accurate weight.
Yeah. Yeah. And as long as I'm not lifting it from the floor, for example, and the bar would be tilted or whatever. Right. But other than that, yeah, it's doesn't. So there's just very few factors. And like, in order to get into weird factors, you have to kind of intentional, right? You kind of have. Well, I only use girls as plates, so never. Someone doing that, I'd just be like, it's like, you see these people, there's a guy who posts on Reddit a lot. He would like squats on rollerblades or like on a skateboard or something. And they would be really heavy squats. And it was just crazy and just like dangerous.
Right.
And you're like, I don't think he's really looking for advice. Like,
I have seen occasionally people who do like, it's mostly roller derby women, like the more hardcore ones, who do some types of lifts on their roller skates.
Yeah.
Which I think is unsafe. I kind of understand what they're going for.
Yeah.
And that they're trying to get at the idea of like stability on their skates.
Yeah.
But it seems impractical to me given the fact that you're never stationary as a skater.
I think it's like, I understand the logic, but talking about it in a risk reward ratio here. And like the goal of lifting weights is stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're stronger, you'll be stronger on your well. You're not going to be stronger on skates and strength. So, and to me, it just introduces a lot more possibility of injury that's not necessary. It doesn't really. And I also kind of think there's something about strength training. Like we talk about like sports training versus strength training, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the idea of, someone somewhere, I'm sure there is a basketball coach somewhere who is having the kids shoot a basketball that weighs twice as much, thinking this will help build their strength so it's easier to shoot a basketball when they're fatigued or something. But the reality is what you're doing is setting yourself up for failure, because when you go to shoot a regular weight
basketball, you're going to be like flinging it way too hard.
Yeah. And I kind of think that's, to me, weightlifting on skates similar, where it's like, well, you're never really going to be doing a squat or a deadlift steering a roller. So it's like, I just don't think, I think it's unnecessary. And I think that the potential benefit is so tiny, whereas the potential risk is much higher.
To do it safely, you have to reduce the maximum amount of weight you can do.
Yeah.
Which means you're not getting the full benefit of doing the exercise.
Which is then to me is like, well, why?
And there's sort of a thing where it's very useful at times to be like, to work on one thing at a time, with an exercise. That's also why you do like multiple exercises.
Yeah. And I just think people should if you're doing a sport like roller derby, sport specific training, and that's skating, and probably doing motions on skate that you would do in a match, versus like strength training, which is the goal of that should just be to be strong.
Right.
And strong enough, and you can train hard enough that it doesn't disrupt your ability.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Yeah. I just think some of that shit, like show off stuff. Like,
speaking of idiotic and training, we can get to the preferred topic of friend of the show, Jen.
Sure.
Because we get at the idea of not just competitive, not just the idea of like competitive cooperative team sports, but competitive cooperative team masturbating. And what Jen
competitive
competitive or cooperative masturbation.
All right.
Which is why Jen was curious about a Harper's article.
Okay.
Which she normally doesn't like. I get Harper's all the time, and normally she doesn't read them.
Mm-hmm.
But one particular article caught her interest.
Okay.
And it was probably one of the most popular Harper's articles that I think came out early this year or late last year. Like, to get older, it's hard to remember exactly when it came out.
Okay.
It was actually one of the more popular articles from Harper since the infamous Harper's letter.
Okay.
Because it's about a completely different topic, but it's also very much not Harper's because it's about online stuff.
Okay.
In a way that Harper's is very much like online doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
But this is about a very online community, which is part of what made it stand out. It's about gooning.
Uh-huh.
And the first thing is I did send you both the article itself and a Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan video about the gooneral.
Gooneral?
Yes.
Like funeral, but goon?
Yes.
Okay.
Which was an event. And so since Jen also, friend of the show, Jen also created reading questions.
Okay.
And now, as a teacher, I'm familiar with this happening, so it's okay if you're honest. Did you read the article?
No.
Did you watch the video?
No, I didn't know I was supposed to for this.
For this. Oh, okay. So
I didn't realize that this was like homework.
So there's so what I can do instead is kind of maybe guide you through this culture.
Okay.
Through the discussion questions. But it's sort of good to actually start with one of the discussion questions. That will still work here.
Now, is that what the article was about? Gooneral?
The article was about gooning as a subculture generally.
So can you give me like a quick summary of what that is as a subculture?
Okay. I'm gotta kind of gather my chi for this one.
Okay.
So everyone...
Can I start with a real quick thing?
Sure.
The whole goon thing, I understand it's something to do with like sex and stuff like that, is really unfortunate because in my house, me and Poon Master Flex call each other all the time.
Yes.
But we've been doing this for many years, and it's like if you catch your partner looking at you in a loving way, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, quit being a goon. But we mean it in the goon sense of like, Batman villains from Batman 6 are goons. Like, just dummies. The
hired muscle.
Yeah, and you just have nothing in your brain, basically, and you're just kind of being like, we. And so it's unfortunate for us because, we'll talk about goon or like gooning at each other, but we do not mean it in this way.
Right. And so I think that sort of that idea of goon and then the gooning the online masturbation communities kind of relate to each other.
Okay.
Because this idea of like you're trying to empty your head through masturbating to pornography.
That's what gooning is?
Like a way to think about gooning is it's kind of like as a runner / former runner yourself.
Yeah, runner. I would say I did like a 7-miler yesterday.
Hey, all right. So you're familiar. Can you describe what you think a runner's high is?
Kind of. This is a sort of touchy subject for me. I don't know that I've ever runner's high, as many people did at least. But my understanding of it, it's probably like equivalent to like a float. You're just sort of like cruising along, just almost like you don't exist. Like kind of easily floating through a run or a portion of a run, feeling pretty good, feeling like you're moving pretty quickly for you. And like, I know other people describe it too as maybe like generally unbothered, like maybe the way some people describe being stoned,
right?
Or a little drunk, if they're a pleasant drunk, just kind of that 2 drinks in, like feeling good. Yeah, not like totally like my mind something, but more just like feel my cares evaporate.
Right. You kind of say like, I care about like the fact that my feet hurt and my knees hurt and I'm hot and I need to poop a lot less.
Yeah. Well, I would say like runner's high. The other things you're just not thinking. Because I think like, you go running, like it's not like you're not about those things ever. But it can fade,
Mhm.
especially like, yeah, I think a long or particular venue have
And so I think what people are trying to achieve with gooning is that same state, but through masturbating to pornography. Like that's kind of the rough analogy, right? Is this idea of people are trying to basically treat masturbating to pornography is kind of like what they're trying to go for. But the gooners themselves has a quotation of like saying like the gooners are people who are not like a lot of us, and I'm including just the sort of general us, right?
Sure.
If we are masturbating, it's kind of like to get to an end state.
Okay.
Like the journey's not really the point most of the time.
It's the destination.
It's the destination.
Yeah.
Right. And for, some people, like you're saying, how do I get to the destination as fast as possible?
Yeah.
It's sometimes masturbation is a bit like, I need to go to the grocery store.
Right.
Right. I just need to be like, how do I get to the fastest? What's the least hassle?
Yep.
I'm going to do that.
A to B.
Mm-hmm. And you're not like, I want to enjoy the process. I want to really do the whole thing. Some people probably do that, but most of the time, no.
Right. Right. It's like less probably of a ritual for most people of like light a candle, put on some soft music, maybe like foreplay myself for a while,
Right.
Yeah. It's more, well, I have 7 minutes. So
here we go.
I think I could probably.
Whoa. Back off, Sting.
I just mean, I have 7 minutes during the day, and just like whatever. Yeah.
You have some uninterrupted time. So, like anything, right? There's going to be some people who like, because like in the same way that there are runners who are like, I put on my shoes, I stretch, I go run around the park and I come back and you
never see my whole life.
You never see them online and they never post about it because like that's just a thing that I do, whatever. There's always going to be the one person who's like constantly posting their PRs.
Okay.
Putting a bunch of stuff. Like they take it a little farther.
This is kind of, I think getting towards my question. Mooning culture, subculture, whatever. And I'm still a little confused what that is.
So the idea is basically the various gooners, right? What they're trying to do is achieve the goon state, which is kind of like a runner's high.
Okay.
It's sort of like an idea where they but it's more than that because it's like the idea of the runner's high is this sort of like the like transcendent experience.
Sure.
Right. The sort of like experience that you might get from like people describe from like long meditation practices.
Sure.
Or like a spiritual awakening or something like that. And most of the time the gooners themselves will say like most of the time they don't get there.
Okay.
But they're sort of like going on the journey.
The
goal is not to be like, I'm going to beat myself off until I come. It's like I'm going to beat myself off for as long as possible and then try to like get to a sort of goon state.
Okay.
Right? This sort of transcendent feeling.
Okay.
And so it's basically people are spending a massively long amount of time with a lot of pornography.
Okay.
In order to achieve this goon state.
Okay.
And these communities of gooners are trying to find ways to optimize.
That was the word that was coming to my mind. Optimizer weirdo. Lighting.
Right. And obviously this takes place through the internet.
Okay.
Because the internet is a place where all this weird stuff happens. In the particular, Harper's article talks about where these gooners all tend to gather, which is not Reddit, which you would expect, even though there's a lot of gooning stuff on Reddit, but Discord.
Oh, okay.
Because Discord is a place that I feel like is the new growth of like social media weirdness.
Yeah, I mean, Discord is very like neat, right? Like there's Discords and there's a Discord for things like our library catalog. That specific catalog. Something like that like, I mean, that necessitate a thing. But yeah, Discord is possible.
And so the idea is that on these various Discords, what people try to do is it's not just the idea of like, because the other thing that's interesting about most of the time, like masturbating and pornography, like acquiring pornography, looking at it, masturbating to it, is mostly a solo endeavor.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Especially among like heterosexual men. Like,
sure.
If you think about it this way, you have friends,
Uh-huh.
right? In your lifetime, how many friends would you say you've like traded pornography with?
I mean, I would say that would be limited when I was cool, and it was somebody had a mag, got past that. But I mean, yeah, not since middle school,
right?
You know, certainly not since the proliferation of the internet. Does that seem like something?
Like there's a thing that when we were younger, like you could have a kind of exchange of pornography because it was hard to access.
Yeah.
It was really hard to access.
Right. You're younger than 18. You can't just go. And like somebody would acquire it by finding a box of it next to a dumpster.
Right.
Or they had an older or something, and
you found the box of pornography in the woods.
Yes.
Right. Which I think you've discussed on previous episodes of like people encountering a large quantity of pornography, like in the woods, in a dumpster, in a place where it's like, I happen to have a lot of it.
Yeah. But that was the only way to get it. Now, so much easier to get. It's like something.
Where it's a thing where, you would never, like people probably don't trade magazines very much because it's like, why would you do that?
If I had a child, like 12, found a pornographic magazine dresser drawer or something, I would be shocked. Not because of the contents of it. How did you get this? Like, how did you even come to acquire this 1985 Playboy? You know what I mean? Like, I would be so confused.
And so one of the ways where Gooners might be reviving a practice or expanding upon it is that because like this masturbation thing is not something you do solo, what Gooners do together is they try to help other people achieve this goon status.
Okay.
And so what they do is
they have goonroos who
well, part of it is also the expansion, and the article talks about this as the gooning. There's like a gooning community, and it did have like discords, but also had like subreddits.
Okay.
And what's helpful to think about is like, since you spend enough time on Reddit, are you familiar with the Battle Station subreddit?
No.
It's basically like a thing where most of the time where people have a kind of absurd computer gaming setup.
Oh, okay.
Right. Basically where it's like you've got like 6 monitors and like a big sound system and a crazy chair.
Right.
They call it battle stations to be like, yeah, you don't have like a normal computer setup. Like you're recognizing a computer setup as a little silly.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? And so they build this, but they build these types of rigs or setups, but for the consumption of pornography.
Okay.
And
so they build a pornographic delivery system battle station.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the type of thing that they're generally doing is that they're not consuming pornography in a way that we would recognize. Because one of the things with old school pornography consumption is that it was generally pretty slow.
Yeah.
And that like, if you had a magazine, it could move as fast as like you could flip a page.
Sure.
And you're kind of limited what's in the page.
Sure.
If you're online, like say you're browsing a pornographic subreddit,
sure,
you would kind of like, you could go from like picture to picture or thing to thing, GIF to GIF or whatever. But you're probably going to stay within like a topic area broadly.
Sure.
Like if you're in Latinas, you're going to get, mostly Latina women.
Okay.
If you're in a certain type of thing, you get a certain type of thing. As a sort of connection to perhaps a future bonus episode where I want to ask you about the Eisenhorn book that I got for you.
I've read about 90 pages.
Hey, all right. That's not even close to getting through the whole omnibus.
To be fair, it's 3 books in one thing.
It is 3 novels
probably
compressed
about
together.
Halfway through one book.
But one of the funniest, like it's among the funny things I've read it, is that one of the little, because Warhammer 40,000, you have little little mins that you play.
Yeah.
And one of the little mins that you can play, the little army you have, is called Dark Angels.
Okay.
And one of the things they tell people if they're getting into this particular army, like they say, hey, I want to learn how to play this army. I want to like figure out how to paint it right. Is they say, okay, you want to make sure to go to Dark Angels 40K.
Oh,
if you go to regular Dark Angels, you're going to see mostly like naked women of color.
Okay.
Because like they got there first.
I see.
And it's sort of like a,
yeah, I had no idea that was a term for
if it's sort of like, hey, if you're into that, you know, like great, but you're not going to get good painting advice. And they do have an April Fool's thing where like in the regular Dark Angels sub, you know, Reddit or the pornographic one, they're like, we'll give a whole bunch of painting advice that day.
There was something that, I don't know, is a work thing or something called like something. And I was just like, I knew that as big, beautiful women, you know, and like plus size naked women.
Right.
And it was like, people kept saying BBW. And I was like, how do I bring up that we call this without saying why?
They're like, oh, this is a porn term, right?
Yeah.
People are going to look at this and it's going to be a porn term.
I mean, that's probably what I would do today is just, we don't need to talk about why or how I know it's popular. So I just also
be like, look, this is a porn term. Don't ask me how I know it, but someone else is going to be like, you're going to get you like, I'm not saying you have to change it, but you're got to be ready for those questions.
You know, that's what we're going to make people think about. If we're fine with that, whatever, but you know.
But basically the idea is, that I was getting at before, is that you have an idea, but the internet kind of, if you're scrolling through pornography, like it's an accelerant as compared to that print pornography. Gooners decide that instead of having the long pornographic video or even the short pornographic GIF, right? They're going to be like, how can I cut things together into like one long, like say longer video, but everything is like 3 seconds.
Okay.
You sort of have like 3 seconds, 3 seconds, 3 seconds of different pornographic images.
Sort of like a TikTokify much longer videos.
Yes.
And just cutting it together to be like the best parts, whatever that may be.
That among the gooners, there are various types of like, there gets to be like sub communities within like gooning where it's sort of saying like, I only want anime girls, or I only want this, or I only want that. But a really common one is people who make basically PM, I think it's called PMVs, like porn music videos.
Okay.
And the idea is basically in the same way that a music video has like a cut that lasts for 1.5 seconds or 3 seconds. This is like, I'm going to have this one cut from this this porn for 3 seconds. I'm going to cut to another porn in 3 seconds. I'm going to cut to another porn in 3 seconds.
Okay.
And what some people do as part of this community is they try to construct these porn music videos.
Okay.
And there are also people who are not gooners themselves, but they have taken their sort of video editing skills.
Okay.
And they sort of get commissions or they sell to these gooners.
Okay.
Like one guy listed in the article is kind of part of this gooning community, who, you know, doesn't necessarily not into gay pornography himself, but he will make like gay porn music videos.
Okay.
And so the idea is basically where this becomes cooperative as a thing is that you try to get the idea of like, I want to help someone achieve the goon state. So I'm going to try to like curate pornography to help them do that.
Okay.
But there's also a sort of competitive side of like I'm going to make this sort of compilation so good that you're going to just bust immediately.
Okay.
Like I'm going to make you fail.
Right.
Not in terms of you don't get aroused, but you like just completely blow your load.
And that's failing in the goon community?
It's kind of like it's the competitive mode where there's the idea, because like if you sort of like just bust immediately, you're not going to achieve the goon states.
You're not.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
And so the idea
is there's like an optimum. Is there like, there's like sort of this hypothetical curve of like, we don't want to go immediately and you probably don't want to go beyond a certain, somewhere in between.
It is like that sort of thing where you're trying to achieve, like when you described flow state before, right? Where it's sort of you don't want, if your run is too easy, you're never going to get to the flow state.
Sure.
If your run is too hard, you're going to be focusing on like not dying.
Right.
So you're like not going to get into a flow state either. So you need that sort of mid-range of difficulty.
Okay. So like optimization, like if we're talking about a runner's high,
right?
Obviously no one's going to get a runner's high running across a park because it's like That's just, but also you don't really want it to take you. Ideally, it wouldn't take you an hour to be close. That happens. Any time that you want to achieve a runner's high, right? You
Well,
want to
it's-
be somewhere.
To make it more mechanical, like imagine like it's very hard to achieve a runner's high if you go onto the treadmill and you put it at 1 mile an hour.
Uh-huh.
Almost no one's going to get a runner's high that way. Like that's just not going to happen.
Uh-huh.
Too easy.
Uh-huh.
If you put it at maximum incline and turn it up to 15 miles an hour,
Uh-huh.
you're also not going to get a runner's high because it's like too
Right.
hard.
Yeah.
So you need to find that thing of like, what is the right
It's an
speed,
intensity thing more than
intensity,
a.
yeah, sort of thing to get to that sort of flow state. If it's too easy, you drop out of it. It's too hard, like you have to try and maintain and you can't get into a flow state.
Okay.
And so the goon state is similar.
Okay.
Right. And so the competitive version is trying to pull people, like trying to say, I'm going to make something that is like going to get you close to that goon state and then you're going to fail. And people participate in that because part of like, there's a subgroup of gooners who are really into the humiliation parts.
Okay.
Because the idea is that a lot of these gooners, and detailed in the article, some of them have like relatively normal sex in terms of like they're sexually active with other people.
Okay.
But a lot of them are not.
I don't want to, categorize people harshly, but this definitely seems like something to me that in order to be really into it, you'd have to have some level of, maybe a way I could put it sort of gently, like low level of obligation to engage in these activities with someone else.
Right. Well, and the thing is that when it comes to that, like what do you mean by low level?
I mean, like, this seems like a difficult thing to have to, while though having physical. Like, it seems difficult to balance that unless I guess you had a partner who was like supportive of this and you're like, Tuesday's my goonin' day. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Like Tuesdays for the boys sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm a middle-aged man, you know what I mean? And it's like, I guess it would be different. I can see sort of, I'm going to make an assumption
Sure.
that many culture are
They're almost
on the
all
younger
young
side.
men. They're
Yeah.
all young men.
So I guess if I'm thinking my 20-year-old self,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guess that would work. Okay.
And part of the article got at the idea, like a combination of factors built up built gooning, which is like the first one is basically internet pornography.
Uh-huh.
And that idea of the internet allows people from a very early age to access the type of pornography that would be impossible for us to access as
Sure.
younger folks, right?
Yeah.
Like if you think about like really extreme pornography or something that's not even that extreme, like anime girl pornography, for example, would have been impossible for us to get in Greeley, Colorado.
Well,
Like-
I mean, for the most part, what you got was right?
Mhm.
And like very, there's a situation where I think you couldn't be very,
It was a
you
thing
kind
where
of got what you got.
like it was a thing where basically because you had to either like a lot of pornography was got through scavenging.
Yeah.
And even if you were like old enough to get pornography, if you wanted something really crazy,
Yeah.
Like you would have to go to the specialty porn store. You'd have to go, you have to slam the magazine down.
Yeah.
That likely costs like $25.
Yep.
And you have to look someone sort of in their face direction and hand them some money.
Yeah.
I
I always thought that was a funny. I understand why, like, I or any feel weird about that.
mhm.
But, as an adult now, I'm like, I think I would be able to do it and not care at all because I'd be like, who's this person to judge me? They work at a porn store.
Right.
Like, their life is not exactly
Like you're surrounded and
firing on
selling
all
this.
cylinders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Mhm.
I'm a customer and like, I wouldn't be weird about it. I would just go in, buy the thing and leave. And I'd be like, what, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I would feel that judged. Or if I felt judged, I'd be feeling, there's an extent to which the person who's judging you has an effect on how much it affects you.
Right.
Like,
It's sort of it's about where the judgment comes from.
yeah.
But part of this, the idea of gooning is like one of the sort of building like bricks in the sort of wall here is like internet pornography is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And extreme forms of it are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these young men, when you think about someone who's 18, they've never had a world where they could not access internet pornography.
Sure.
Right. And so the thing is that at a very early age, they can access more and more extreme forms. There's kind of an escalation factor.
Okay.
Another big factor was COVID,
Uh-huh.
right? Where people are locked down all the time
Mm-hmm.
and they're kind of at home. But during this time period, people kind of had their little like masturbation caves,
Okay.
which is now called a goon cave.
Okay.
And there's an idea of some people, like where we talked earlier about masturbation as a means to an end.
Uh-huh.
Some people are like, no, they wanted the journey.
Okay.
They set up this like space, this shrine, this sanctuary to their masturbation. And they called it a goon cave.
Okay.
And so they kind of would share their goon cave online.
Rate my setup. Kind
Yes,
of
so
like,
rate my setup. Like it's kind of the battle station thing where like most of the time when people are looking for a rate my battle station, they could be like, oh, if you mount this monitor here, you'll get like more stability and you'll get, you can angle it down a little bit.
yeah.
Or like, how do I block the light? So,
I want to glare on
I don't
the,
want this glare on
yeah.
the screen, or like, what's a good sound bar that's going to work here?
Okay.
People are doing this, but for like maximizing their pornography consumption.
Okay.
And so part of it is that when these like people have these like discords and subreddits, they start to form communities.
Okay.
And in
Okay.
these-
I
Go
need
ahead.
to pause for a second.
All right.
Because like this is all making me laugh.
Mhm.
And like I feel like I'm walking a line here because like I don't want to like laugh at someone's sexual practices or something. I think what I'm laughing about though is like for me the level of is like how involved they've made something not that involved for most people.
Right.
I find very comical. It feels like a person who I would laugh at someone who when they made their coffee they like out exact and heated the water to exact temperature like a neck thing for an exact amount of water into the bean and then let it for an exact amount, you know what I mean? And like they bought a very specific kind of coffee filter that was made from fibers from a specific type of tree because they put the least flavor tainting what, you know what I mean?
Right.
And when you get to that level of like obsession, that is always funny, regardless of the act.
It's sort of like once you start talking about your coffee grinder in terms of like burr sharpness and rotational speed.
Yeah, and just I don't know. Yeah, there's always a level, right? A level to which I would consider normal, or like okay, maybe it's like this. There's a level of minimal input you can do to things that improves them quite a bit, but then at some point it falls off.
Right.
Like if you're a regular coffee drinker, I'm like it's worth it to get a grinder and
Mhm.
like to grind your own beans. Then but
nothing comes closer to home.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess that says more about the home you grew up in than the quality of
Right.
the coffee. Like, but
Some
like,
people need to leave home, damn it.
yeah. I mean, some people have stupid parents, like
Mhm.
who thought that was a good thing to drink. And that was the best thing they'd ever tasted. Anyway, I just like, yeah, I do find it comical, but I guess I find it comical in the way of like the same way that I find like Warhammer subculture kind of comical.
Oh, sure.
But I feel like that subculture is aware that it's kind of funny, like how involved and intricate and crazy it is. Like,
it's a good analogy because like there's a strand of war, like everyone acknowledges at some point, like with Warhammer 40,000, let's say like you're reading silly books,
yeah,
or what you're doing is you're taking little plastic mins
yeah,
and moving them around a table.
yeah,
And like at some point it's like if you start to take it too seriously, then you start to miss something, like you're kind of missing the point.
Yeah, it's like no longer an entertainment, it's a lifestyle.
Right.
But when it becomes a lifestyle, it's like, I don't know, man. Like
there's some people who make it a lifestyle, like it's a hobby that consumes a
Sure.
lot of their time. But
Yeah.
like you start to be like, but even they have some level of self-awareness where they're like, hey, this is a fun thing that I like to do. If you don't really like it, my YouTube channel or podcast, like we're just not compatible.
Yeah.
Whatever. But it's not like this is a sacred thing that everyone must do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like maybe it's this weird feeling I have of like the difference sort of type. Someone who feels like what they do should be respected, and people who are sort of like, I mean, it's kind of fucking good, but like,
and there's a bit in those communities where they're trying to win respect among other nerds.
yeah,
And it's like, that's really kind of what counts. Like, you sort of like, you kind of acknowledge, like, I'm not going to get global respect for this.
Right.
But like, it is, or global prestige, I should say.
yeah,
But at the same time, you're like, I don't really care about global prestige that much. Like, I'm really good at painting these little mins.
Yeah.
I want to like talk with other people who are good at painting these little mins.
Yeah.
That's all that really matters.
yeah. I mean, yeah, for me, it's like, it's not a judgment about the thing. It's
Mhm.
more just about like, because everyone has a stupid thing they do fucking shitload of time on it. And like, I don't think any one person's like better really inherently than anyone else's. I'm not a person who's like, these fuckers weren't wasting so much time on painting little men's. They would be writing the, you know what I mean? I don't believe that.
I'm going to pick up a quotation from the article here.
Okay.
That was really early on, which was interesting. This is by Daniel Colts. And the article is called "The Goon Squad."
All right. All right. I'm going to pee while you
okay.
look this up.
Oh, I've got it here, but I can still read the article. But part of what the Goon Squad article is about, for those of you who are not friend of the show, Jen. Hi, Jen. Sorry, Peter didn't do the reading. As a teacher, welcome to my life. But I think that we could still have the discussion about gooning masturbation habits as I take Peter down the journey of gooning that I think almost everyone listening to a regular episode, and especially a bonus episode, would like to go on, except for friend of the show / personal enemy of mine, Alec. He knows why we're personal enemies. Captain America would totally win. Because I assume Alec is like already deeply familiar with gooning. I'm pretty sure he has a goon cave and just doesn't want to. And I don't want to say he doesn't want to say so. I'm pretty sure he would come on this podcast and talk about his goon cave. And if he doesn't have a goon cave and he wants to refute this accusation, I believe he could do a guest spot on Helpful Snowman podcast and refute all of these claims. However, I'm going to put it right out here. Alec has a goon cave. And if that's not true, I challenge him to come on the podcast and deny this claim. Because, I'm pretty sure he does. Pretty sure he has a goon cave.
Are you talking about me having a goon cave?
I was talking about friend of the show / personal enemy Alec.
Oh, okay.
Definitely has a goon cave.
He does have a room in his house that's full of Bowen mini busts.
Oh.
So if I was gonna guess what his goon cave would be, that seems like
where he has these mini busts, right? And one of the things I kind of remember about these mini busts, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that if it's a mini bust of a woman, it always makes sure to show some cleavage.
Well, I mean, they're comic book characters.
Yeah, they're comic book characters.
They're true to the
design. It's true to the design, but like I can kind of vaguely remember, like sometimes the mini bust of a male character can kind of cut off on a straight line across the shoulders.
It really depends on the character, because like if you have a Superman mini, it's
Right.
gonna have the S, right?
Mhm.
Like
It should,
that's gonna be on there, and so
like Superman was gonna have the S, but like a Green Lantern, you're like, if it didn't have the like little lantern, you'd be like probably fine.
but they'll probably will.
Mhm.
I think most of the mini busts do paint or so
Mhm.
these, but yes,
Right.
there'd be some boobs a popping
Boobs
in
a-poppin'. Now, one of the things that comes up in the article that was written here is an idea that there's going to be some people like they're going to be funneled down this track. They're going to do something weird no matter what.
Okay.
But there's an idea and a quotation from here is that there's an idea that some of these gooners might not have existed, like it might not have come to be maybe 60 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Right. And the quotation is something like, let's see. Even so, it seemed beyond dispute that 60 years ago, some of these gooners would have been fathers,
Okay.
small business owners, dependable men in hats riding slow commuter trains, their mindscapes perfumed with thoughts of stocks, bonds, lawn care.
Uh-huh.
Well, what could you do? Certain social systems had failed, certain historical trend lines had converged, and now we have these guys to deal with.
Okay.
Like, in other words, kind of getting at the article is kind of getting at the idea of like, some of these guys might have had a normal life in a different technological, social, economic environment. Some of these guys definitely wouldn't. But one of the things that comes up with any hobby thing is that you get into a hobby, and similar to Warhammer 40K, there's always going to be the one guy who says, like, I'm really into this thing, but this guy goes too far.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's way too into it.
Sure.
And that's true of any hobby community. Like, hey, you're taking this a little too far. You're way too in, like, you're kind of off balance here.
I would say that's true of any person in any hobby. I think every person has their line. And then there's tons of people who exceed.
Right.
Like what I think is reasonable to go for a long run on a Saturday, there are people who run 5 times as far that are that reason.
That within running, there's always going to be somebody, or almost always going to be somebody who's like, I'm a normal runner, or I'm within the band of normal runners.
Yeah.
That guy's a psycho.
Yeah.
These people are nuts.
Yep.
Like, it's sort of if you run 5Ks, you almost think everyone who runs a marathon is nuts.
Sure. Yeah.
If you run marathons, you think people who run ultra marathons are nuts.
Right.
If you run ultra marathons, like, which I think are still nuts.
Right.
Like, they're like, oh, but the ultra marathon guys, those guys are nuts.
Right.
Gooners are, if most people consume some type of pornography, gooners are always like well, I'm not one of those guys.
I'm not that
guy. And within gooners, there are some people who say, like, I participate in gooner as a contained hobby, right? It's a contained thing.
Yeah.
And they always say, but there's somebody else who's like totally off their rocker.
Yeah.
Like, the article finds a particular gooner person called Wristband Guy.
Okay.
Wristband Guy got his name because he tries to make gooning more of a community activity.
Is this like an individual, or is this like a type person?
It's a specific individual.
Okay.
Like,
capital Wrist.
imagine like a Discord handle that is like capital W, capital
Gotcha.
B, capital G. Wristband Guy.
Okay.
And Wristband Guy's thing is he tried to make a gooner meetup happen
in real life.
in real life.
Okay.
And the idea was like you would kind of come together, you'd come to a space, and you would all like kind of watch pornography at the same time.
Okay.
Right. And you would all kind of goon near each other or together or something else.
Okay.
And so part of gooning generally is that there is an idea of something as communal. Like, you're not like necessarily watching each other jerk off, right? But there's an idea like you say, I'll get on Discord and I'll start my porn music video at the same time as you. Like, we'll go into the sort of play channel and we'll have the shared porn music video and we're jerking off like at the same time together.
But not necessarily like on camera with each other, but we just know.
Right.
Okay.
You're both like jerking off to the pornography, but also like jerking off to the pornography with someone else nearby.
Okay.
Like, in some ways, it's like the recreation of the old porno theater.
That's what I was thinking. The porno theaters people went to out of necessity.
Right.
But like, what if we could do that by choice?
But I think the thing is like these people don't necessarily like the old porno theaters. Like, you might go in and jerk off, but you wouldn't talk to other people there.
Problem all of in my mind so far is like you're trying to take something non-specific as sexual preference, create a community around it, about how around the act of jerking. But the problem to me is like, one person, what they would goon over is so different from what someone else would goon over. You know what I mean? That seems very personal, and I don't mean private.
Now, this is what these Discord communities use to sort of sort out.
Yeah.
Right? Where they try to connect people who say, like, you're into anime girls, you're into porn music videos, you're into this kind of thing.
Right.
Like, one of the things that happens with all of these, like, various gooning Discords, like these various servers, an unfortunate thing is that you always find the people who are into, like, underage pornography, which, like, mods of these communities always try to chase those people out.
Sure.
They try to push them aside. And they kind of like all these sort of, those people tend to like bounce from community to community.
As they get kicked out of various, as it's discovered what they're
as
doing.
it's kind of uncovered or discovered.
Sure.
And so what they try to do is they try to, but they try to basically match people up.
Right.
And to go back to Wristband Guy for a second, like why he got his name was in his little meetups, is he tried to like get the idea of, at his little meetup, he would give people wristbands. And they'd be like, a red wristband is like, I'm not into interacting with other people.
Oh, okay.
Like, and a yellow one is like, I'm curious about interacting with other people.
This is like a normal practice at like professional conferences now, right? Like, you might have a name tag with like a little flag on it. And like purple means, oh, I'm open to work.
Right.
And like green is like, I'm a recruiter looking for,
You kind of start to have little flags.
To
be like, this is kind of what I'm here for.
Right.
They don't have a little flag of like, I'm just trying to get away from work for a weekend.
Right. If we had helpful snowman, be like, well, a green flag means I've listened to this maybe once or less. Red flag means I've listened to it up to 10 times. I've heard up to 10 episodes. And a purple flag is just like, I'm crazy.
The black flag is for, I've listened to an episode in a non-digital format.
Yeah.
Like I have a mini disc or
I got
a
mini
record
disc player so that I can listen to that live from Japan episode.
Where you've put it like I'm on a different level.
That's a true fucking mania. I probably just asked them to.
But Wristband Guy's general thing is
those are the child pornography people.
We're going to gently ask you to leave. You're too into this.
I know I put the mini disc in your hands, but it still freaks me out.
But like Wristband Guy's broad thing is because he's part of like broader kink communities and he's trying to get people to like goon healthily or goon responsibly.
Yeah.
And where people are talking about like, oh, I was sort of jerking off for 6 hours. And he's like, and people will be like, hey, that's awesome. Congratulations on the Discord. And he's like, hey, that's a long time. Like, did you take any water breaks? Like, did you, did you ever eat something? Like, a kind of broad, like, are you taking care of yourself? And in the article, other people the author interviewed were like, they liked Wristband Guy's, like, sort of idealism, but recognized, like, there's no healthy way to goon. Like, there's, like, at some point, if you are gooning, you are recognizing that you've taken a break from reality.
Okay.
Like you kind of get the idea of how big you've broken from something normal to like, but you don't have the idea that what you're doing is normal anymore.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just like, I get where he's coming from and I get that whatever. I think the thing that that doesn't work for me about this is community is like, okay, I think our mom has this, right? Like very into politics stuff and whatever. And I think has discovered over time though, that sharing someone's politics doesn't really mean that you have much else. Like it can often be that you have the politics as someone else, but then you go out to lunch one time. You don't want to.
I think what gooning kind of, like, I'm going to go with this, how it kind of functions. I'm not going to say it works.
Yeah.
But the idea of how it kind of functions is because it's kind of gets at the certain, like, you have a certain level of pornographic obsessive. And basically they're finding other pornographic obsessives.
Yeah.
And then if your whole life is like, say, pornography,
Yeah.
you
okay.
can really kind of like, you don't have to worry about the fact that you don't really relate to them on any other level.
Right.
Because like, this is what you do.
Yeah.
And it relates to an idea where a lot of people have lost touch with reality through gooning.
Okay.
A significant amount, which it comes to the video that I sent to you about what was called the Gooneral.
Okay.
In that, this also comes up in the article. The Gooneral was an event that took place not far from where Jen and I actually live.
Okay.
It involves a coffee chain called Bikini Beans.
Okay.
Bikini Beans is like a basically Starbucks crossed with Hooters.
Yes. I've
Right.
heard of these, often drive-through coffee places that employ like young women.
Right.
Basic.
It's a drive-through coffee place. You get a coffee with a woman in a bikini. I've never gone to Bikini Beans, even though like they're kind of all around, because I'm like, I am a coffee snob to a degree.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that that's not going to be very good.
I have the same problem.
Mhm.
Like I always think, because like the Hooters people are like they have great wings, so that's not an appeal to me. But I pretty much refuse to believe that they have the best. You know what I mean? Within a 10-mile radius, like, and yeah, Bikini Beans. Like, well, if they had the best coffee, wouldn't need to, right? Like, and I coffee side. So yeah.
The exception I would make is Twin Peaks actually has a pretty good kitchen.
Okay.
Like, Jen actually recommended it to me, and she had it recommended by a colleague of hers. Where it was like a colleague of hers, like who was also another woman, was like, they have an amazing salad. Like, you wouldn't think it, but it does. They do. And Jen was like, yeah, go check it out. Because we moved to a place that was near a Twin Peaks. And I was like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
but I went, and it's because they have a from scratch kitchen. And you're like, I'm like, okay, this is actually like pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm in that shopping complex and I want to sit down and eat somewhere, I'm like, that's where I'm probably going to go. Cause I'm like, that's actually pretty good. But that's the one exception I found where Hooters, not good food.
Well, here's the other problem, right?
Right.
I would feel obligated to tip more than,
Mm-hmm.
and so, and I don't have a problem tipping, but I think I would just feel like the salad would have to be good enough that I'm like, okay, if it costs $14.95, but it costs $22.95 tip, is that worth it? You know what I mean? I don't know. Also, I just like, I don't know, you run into someone you're coming out of Twin Peaks. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's not like I'm a shamed individual or something like that. I just, again, it's a risk reward. And the reward to me,
Mm-hmm.
the food would have to be so fucking that like I would
Yeah,
that I would get it as takeout.
I would probably go with Twin Peaks is on the edge of get it as takeout. Like, it's not that good.
Yeah.
Well, also, it's like the kind of food that they have is like just not good as takeout food.
Sure.
Like the cheeseburger, like I would probably say basically to put it in a Greeley context, the cheeseburger is rivaling the WeldWorks cheeseburger. Like maybe not better, but like if they were playing, they'd be in the same league.
I can't believe, like, of all the things that I thought would die during COVID down,
Mm-hmm.
I would think Hooters do. Like,
Financially, they're very struggling.
yeah,
but,
I
like,
would think so.
Yeah, but I don't know that they're all the way dead yet, but it's like one of those, there's a lot of like financial shenanigans that keeps them going.
Yeah.
But more to the point, Bikini Beans was the site of one man would come through Bikini Beans.
Mm-hmm.
He exposed himself to the staff.
Yeah.
And the staff like recorded him doing this and
Right.
kind of named and shamed him a little bit. Like to be
Sure.
like, this is a thing that you're doing. You need to get the fuck out of here.
Fair.
He was about to get into some actual trouble for his behavior.
Okay.
And he's also a guy like had done similar things before. So like this was not a first time.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things like when you have the camera on somebody, you're like, this guy's going to do it. So like you do it. The guy, when he realizes he's about to be exposed, takes his own life,
Okay.
kills himself.
All right.
He's not a gooner himself, but a lot of gooners feel like he is one of them.
Okay.
And so they hold an event in the parking lot of this Bikini Beans called the Gooneral.
Okay.
And the idea is that these sort of pornography supporters / addicts come together as a community to try and like remember the life of this guy that they feel like is one of them.
Even though he's established not one of them.
Not one of them. In the parking lot, and this is depicted in the video version that I sent you, they sort of met up in the parking lot of this Bikini Beans. They had a meetup, and they start chanting, "I can't goon," in the cadence of "I can't breathe" at like the George Floyd protests.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow.
And
so, okay. Yep.
And so the video actually has some of the people who work at Bikini Beans. Extremely funny as a video because like the video has them being interviewed, like wearing masks to kind of hide their identities.
Okay.
But they're also wearing bikinis, and because of like the bikinis don't hide a lot, like they have like big tattoos and things where it's like you're kind of hiding your face, but like you're not really hiding who you are. Like,
certainly anyone who knows them would know who
be like,
that
okay,
was.
I could probably like figure that out. But they basically kind of say like, these are a lot of like young men who are like trying to find a community, but they seem like really misguided, like really like so far off.
Yeah, like this funeral, like it's kind of like a protest, but like I don't think I'm understanding what they're protesting. Like this guy's right to, because okay, I'm thinking like if I'm wristband guy, for example, I would be like, even if this guy was part of, I'd be like, well, what he was doing is not acceptable. And like isn't acceptable within our community nor any community. And I would kind of be the opposite, I think, distancing myself from it. Like, hey, what we're doing, like, because my feeling so far on this stuff is, well, they're not hurting it. You know what I mean? Like, I guess if they're devoting else, but you know, ultimately, whatever. But like this sort of thing, I don't really understand. Like I don't really understand what they're feeling like they're being forbidden from doing, other than exposing themselves to the public. Isn't A, part of this subculture, and B, that's never been legal or acceptable, and like whereas the gooning seems like a victimless crime. This does not seem like a crime.
Like a lot of the gooning feels like it's kind of like,
if I'm calling it a crime. Yeah.
Gooning, it feels like when it comes to like, is it a crime? No. But like, is it victimless is kind of like a weird thing. It's like, to me, the closest analogy I can think of is it's kind of like gambling with the mob. In that like, yes, the mob is preying upon people, sort of, but it's like the kinds of people who are like gonna do the bad stuff anyway.
Sure.
And so there's a sort of certain subculture of people that, but I think it's almost like, but even if like you imagine the mob is not less powerful, it's kind of like if you had a bunch of gamblers who are constantly like making crazy bets with each other and like constantly passing they're passing like massive fortunes back and forth amongst each other, but not really like holding on to it.
Well, and like, I guess, I suppose there's probably sub community of like ethical goop, right? Like it's like
wristband guy was trying to build that, but it's just not going to work.
Like I only look at pornography that I've paid for on Only.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's like ethical, what, you know what I mean? Something like that, I'm sure exists, but like, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. The Goonerol doesn't, that seems like a thing of like, you know, like the analogy I would think of is like, that's MAGA watching. And like, I'm sure there's some, like that to me seems like the craziest of
right.
like the people who are storming the Capitol, and you're like, ooh, I don't really want to be associated.
I think there's an interesting connection there because like Gooners are very online.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
That's one of those like necessary components. And I think a lot of like the January 6th people, like there's a certain level of onlineness that was necessary to sort of cook your brain in that way.
Absolutely. Right.
They tried to build a community and they built their community around something like incredibly misguided
Yes.
at best.
Yeah.
The Gooners, like the interesting bit is like it's hard to tell how much with the Gooners, and also to some degree with those January 6th people. Like there might be some people who thought like with January 6th, like I'm just here for like the lols, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm here
absolutely.
for the fun time. And then there's a handful of people who are like super serious about it.
Yeah.
And most of the Gooner rule is different in that A, it's basically harmless.
Yes.
And B, it's not really clear. Like there's a division. There's no division between the people who are doing this ironically and doing it seriously. Like it is not clear to any observers, and not even among themselves. They're like, "Am I like?" When asked by reporters, like, "Did you go to this like ironically or sincerely?" Their answer was, "I don't really know."
Yeah, like January 6th, I suppose there was someone who was like, yeah, I mean, once I saw them like hit a cop in the throat with a flagpole, I was like, whoa, okay.
I was in over my head and I decided to book out.
Yeah, I mean, or I could even see someone who's like, caught up in the moment. I took a dump on Nancy Pelosi's desk.
Right.
And you're like, I mean, that's whatever, but like when I saw someone with a gun, I was like, oh, okay.
Right. When I saw who else was it's a thing where you show up to something and you're like, this is maybe not for me anymore. Like,
yeah.
I imagine the kind of person who shows up to their first comic convention, like having gone to a couple of them, where like I thought like, oh, I'm a pretty big comic book fan. And then you go like, I'm just not that big of a comic book fan compared to those people.
Yeah, or just not in that way.
Or not in that way. And I'm like,
I'm not going to go that far.
I'm not going to go again, it's in any hobby, you can be like, I'm one kind of person, or like I'm one kind of sicko.
Yeah.
But those people are too far.
Yeah. Totally.
And then what comes up in the gooning article is like there's always people who say like, I do this gooning thing. It's kind of like the idea of like I have my isolated like craziness, and then I lead a relatively normal life otherwise.
Right.
And then other people, it's pretty clear, like they say like, yeah, I see somebody's house and they're like clearly mentally ill.
Right.
Like where they have like the sort of pee bottles next to their desk or boards around their house, or it's like very clear that they haven't like cleaned their kitchen.
Sure.
And it's sort of that problem of, are you gooning like as your thing, like that's just your thing, versus like is gooning a sort of outgrowth of your broader mental illness?
Okay, can I do a thing now in defense of gooning?
In defense of gooning.
From what little I know of it.
All right.
But like, I think the part you read is something that people are like, in the 1960s, if this person had been born in the 60s, they'd probably be, putting this energy into or whatever. Or it's kind of like the thing you hear sometimes about like a kid who's disruptive class. Energy. I always sort of bristle, kind of. For one thing, I sort of think it's equally likely that instead of doing something productive, maybe they'd be doing something worse. You know what I mean? Like maybe these are the people who would have become serial killers. You know what I mean? Like that's equally likely. I'm not saying more likely, but equally likely is that they would be focusing their energy on something, assuming there are an equal number of positive and negative outcomes or options. The idea that they would take a productive road is making a big assumption.
I think the analogy, having read more of the article, right? And I think one of Jen's discussion questions about like, is gooning anti-capitalist?
Oh, okay. That's like such a sort of deep question.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think the idea is basically that particular sort of idea of what a normal person is like is the I'm going to go to my job that is kind of pointless or purposelessness.
Yes.
Like when you're thinking about like, it's not saying like these guys could have gone on to be president or an astronaut.
Sure.
It's like these guys would have had a type of existence where they're wearing their hats on this slow commuter train and thinking about like stocks and bonds and lawn care, where they're not like going to achieve great things,
Yeah.
but they could have had like a fairly ordinary life.
But I think that's what I'm saying though. How do you know that that person's thinking that as opposed to burying a body in the face? Or like doing some sort of harmful sexual thing. Or like, I'll make an analogy, and I don't want this to come off the wrong way. But like, I think we could say something similar, or I think a hyper conservative person would say something similar about like a gay and be like, it was better in the 50s. They'd be in the closet, they would get married and have kids and live a productive life. Now they're out partying and like whatever. And like, I feel like this is it. There are shades of that, right? Of don't care for this lifestyle. Wish they would live a more normal lifestyle.
I think part of what it gets at is that there was an older social contract that afforded a certain type of quiet dignity as long as you lived within certain boundaries.
Yeah.
And what it sort of indicates in those last lines of like, economic arrangements are different. This just isn't available to them. So it's kind of the idea of, it's both saying like these men might have lived a different path. And if you're going to judge them too harshly for going down that path, it's recognizing that the path that would have like the baseline social agreement that might have existed 60 years ago does not exist anymore.
Right. Like they're not going to get a job with a pension.
Right. It's sort of the like, it's the thing. It's exactly right. It's like you say, as long as you kind of keep a certain gray status quo going, like you'll get to like retire with your modest pension and you're not going to like collapse into a climate, living through the climate catastrophe.
It's like the Fight Club thing, right? Like we were told if we went to school and got good grades and went to college and paid our student loans on time, middle class lifestyle, that we would be afforded these certain things. And then we found out that that's not true anymore. Like, I don't own a home. In the 60s, my equivalent would definitely own a home by age 42.
Right.
Like,
it's a thing where I think about, like, I was talking with our mom yesterday about like buying a house. And I realized like, she obviously had struggles and I'm not going to say it was easy, but I think about how often like she was able to buy a house. Hold on. Jen is calling.
Okay.
So you'll have to riff for a bit.
Okay. Yeah. Like, so I don't know. I think that's the thing, is just like clarifying here. Like I bristle at the thing where it's like people are judging what someone else is doing and the basis for comparison, what they could be doing. Because it's like you can always judge by what they're doing, which is reality, and by what they could be doing instead. What they could be doing instead is not reality. It's hypothetical, like a best case scenario. You can judge reality against a hypothetical instead of reality. And so I think that's where that kind of, to me, very much where I find it style. It's not fair to compare a best possible outcome to, it's like you would need to compare I think it's more realistic to compare a likely outcome, a median outcome to reality. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, they would be sitting on the bus about work, that, and it's like, well, they may be thinking sitting on the bus about work because 7-Eleven.
But yeah, I think the point of that sort of passage is that sort of like middle path for people is not available.
Yes, I agree with
that. That's part of where it's saying the humdrum simple deal no longer exists. So if it's kind of like, it's early in the article, so it's sort of saying like, there's a little bit of and also it gets at the larger challenge of like a lot of technological conditions that simply did not exist 60 years ago. Like some of those men might have become gooners if all of this was available to them, but it simply was not.
Yeah. Well, I think I understand what you're saying. Like, that middle of the road, satisfactory life, fair day's work for a fair day's
Mm-hmm.
has shrunk to non-existence now. So it's like, yeah, people are probably for ways happy,
Right.
and they have to look harder than they used to
Well, and it gets at like a
to
certain
just be content, I should say.
there's also like a technological conditions thing of an era of like mass shooting wasn't possible in an era of muzzle loaders, right? Like part of what makes mass shootings work, and gun advocates don't like it, but it's simply true. It's like the like mass availability of semi-automatic weapons makes mass shooting possible in a way that in previous eras, like when that just wasn't available, like, it was harder to do.
It's far more plausible with not exceptional level skill or money or anything.
Like the sort of the AR-15 affords people to become a mass shooter in the way that if you had to do it with a bolt action rifle, like which the older mass shooters had to do, but it's like that took a lot more like skill and practice, and also
and
like,
even if you're great at it,
your casualty count was pretty low comparatively, where it's like you just go into your random Walmart and ruin everyone's day.
Yeah. Okay.
But so I think the thing with gooning is that we've decided that it is not necessarily anti-capitalist.
Well, I don't know.
I guess the idea of the discussion question is basically the thing is that nobody makes any, like, aside from the people making commissions occasionally, nobody makes any money off of this.
Yeah.
Like, as a community that is completely free of, like,
it's an activity.
It's an activity that's mostly free of, like, monetization.
There's no commerce.
Right.
Okay.
The commerce is pretty limited.
I suppose. I mean, I think in my mind, sometimes something has to be sort of an intent of it, or like a facet of what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
I would say something like, if we're trying to make bicycle commuting to work a reality,
right?
That's anti-capital, right? That's a lot of problem.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like not really. I would say it's capitalism.
It's a kind of thing where they're building something around, like, building community around something other than exchange and money.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily like, I guess it's like making a community, but I wouldn't even call it like building people up very much. It's like sort of we'll exploit your deviance, but not for money. We're exploiting your deviance to make my own deviant, to make me feel better about my own deviance.
Maybe if I can overthink it from.
Okay.
I would say it's anti-capitalist in the sense of we think about it, it'd be like anti-racism framework, where it's like, well, anything that's basically moving away from capitalism, capitalist ending to, or if that's not really the thought process. Here's the thing. I don't think anyone thinks of it as in the framework of capital.
Right.
Like, I don't think anyone's doing it right then, or at least that's probably not how it begins.
I think part of it, when it becomes like the sort of pro or anti-capitalist, which is also that very online thing of like, because there's a certain segment of people who want to monetize everything.
Yeah.
Right. The sort of like,
how can we monetize this?
It's like you can bet on the outcome of a forest fire type of thing.
Sure.
It's like, you can see why that's bad.
Yeah.
And there's older versions of capitalism that says like the market is kind of over here, or it's over here to the extent that there are some institutions or parts of our life that are not driven by market exchange.
Yeah.
Right. Where you say like, maybe when you go to church, you're not thinking about how do I maximize value.
Right.
Like you say, no, you're doing something else here.
Right.
And part of our lives have been something where we have to try to maximize output or productivity or economic value out of everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of the like, you think about like, when you join a book club, you say, is this productive? Or if you're reading this book, you say, is this productive? Is this going to make me better as a consumer or make me more money?
Right.
And gooning doesn't do that.
No.
So in some ways, gooning is not anti-capitalist, but it also goes back to an older version of capitalism where it's like
True.
markets were a thing you did from, 8 to 6, and then you went home and you did something else.
Yeah.
And you weren't thinking about how do I maximize value all the time.
True. Right.
So it's not anti-capitalist. It's just an older version of capitalism. But in 21st century, it is anti-capitalist because capitalism is about how do we monetize everything.
Yeah. I suppose too, my theory or my prediction, it is capitalist, but someone will figure out how to monetize it and ruin it comprehensively for everyone who likes it as it is.
So, keep gooning free is what this podcast says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so.
All right, we did it.
Was that the only question?
There's a lot of discussion questions,
Oh, okay.
but I think the discussion questions were fairly particular to the article itself.
Oh, so I needed to have read it.
It helps to have read it.
Okay.
So maybe we'll have it to be continued, and maybe in a future episode we'll come back.
I will read it.
We'll read it.
I promise to read it. I didn't know I needed to read it for this.
Okay.
I didn't know I needed to do work.
I think I sent an email to that effect, but
I don't know if I got it.
I think I sent it to the Helpful Snowman.
Oh, I don't know if I have that.
Oh. Well, I may have lost the email rotation of Peter.
Okay.
All
well,
right.
I promise to do it in the future so then I can answer the discussion.
Awesome.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you next time.
See you in a future episode.
Somebody should talk about two time. Talk about bum wine, yeah. You're asking the questions that nobody could. Like where the bone